Hello, and welcome to another Retro PC gaming video. This time we're talking about Doom, the second first-person shooter that I ever played. One of the most iconic parts of Doom is its music. Inspired by hair and heavy metal of the 1980s and 1990s, Doom's soundtrack is a mix of driving rock and creepy synths that mix together to help set the atmosphere for its frantic run-and-gun action. Unlike modern games where the soundtrack is a series of digital audio files, computer game music back in the early to mid-90s was played back from a series of sequence files that worked a lot like sheet music. They gave instructions to the computer's sound hardware to play particular notes on particular instruments, either by writing direct instructions for the sound card or using a format called General MIDI, a standard that came about in 1991 that laid out which instruments composers could use and made a set of standard instructions that sound hardware should use to reproduce that music. Composer Bobby Prince, who had previously worked with id on Commander Keen and Wolfenstein, composed Doom's music using a professional digital synthesizer. He used the Roland Sound Canvas SC55, which was very popular, and used the Roland GS set of digitally sampled instruments. This meant that if someone had a sound canvas or some other Roland GS compatible sound hardware, they too could hear the game's music the way it was meant to be heard. The biggest downside to this was the price. The SC55 was an eye-wateringly expensive $795 in 1991, and needed extra hardware to work in games that drove the cost up even higher. Most people had far more modest sound hardware for their computer, and in the 90s that usually meant a sound blaster of some type, or a clone that was compatible with it. These sound cards could play back digitized audio, usually sound effects and voice, and had dedicated chips like this Yamaha YMF262 that used FM synthesis to make MIDI music using a series of frequency-modulated sound waves. Unlike general MIDI devices like the Sound Canvas that could directly map digitized instrument sounds from MIDI sequences, FM Synth needed to have a set of instructions that specified which waveforms corresponded to which instruments and notes. The quality of the music playback depended heavily on how this was done, and since most composers wanted to compose music instead of programming sound chips, many game developers used pre-made audio libraries. Doom used an audio library called DMX to do this, which wasn't bad, but the developers at id Software were never really happy with how it worked, and how it interpreted the music tracks that they'd received from Bobby Prince. It also had some odd bugs and behaviors that broke the game on some sound cards, and reversed the music's stereo channels. There's an unspoken rule of the internet where if you can think of doing something with Doom, someone has made a mod for it, and in 2017 someone did indeed release a new set of instrument maps for FM synthesis sound cards using the OPL3 sound chip. It's called DMXOPL3 and was posted to GitHub by Shannon Freeman. These patches were meant to make FM synthesized music in Doom sound closer to what one would hear on a Roland Sound Canvas, and while they were meant to be used with modern emulators, they also work on era-appropriate hardware like the Sound Blaster 16 that I have in my Windows 98 Retro PC. Let's check it out and compare the original DMX music maps, the DMXOPL3 fan-made maps, and wavetable MIDI music from an X2GS synthesizer card that sounds just like a Roland Sound Canvas. The first thing you'll probably notice is that the DMXOPL3 music takes advantage of stereo separation. The original Doom soundtrack had to be compatible with sound cards that only had mono FM synth, like the original Sound Blaster and Adlib. The most striking difference for me is that the guitar and drum sounds are much closer to the Roland GS music with the DMXOPL3 library. The guitar in particular sounds crunchy like music on the Sega Genesis often did, and it really works well with Doom's atmosphere and gameplay. Let's listen to another level from Doom using the song Kitchen Ace. This song really highlights the differences between the default music mapping and the DMXOPL3 maps. The fan-made music just sounds more like actual instruments, especially the drums, and that grungy guitar is incredibly well suited to the fast action in this level of the game. There's a link in the video description to the GitHub page if you want to try this mod out for yourself, and if you have any interest in mucking around with Doom and how it sounds, it's well worth checking out whether you're running in a modern source port or on retro hardware. For now, though, thanks for watching, and enjoy listening to some of Doom 2's music using the DMXOPL3 music maps and a genuine Sound Blaster 16.